In this video, I'm revealing my top 5 CS2 investments for November 2025, plus a bonus pick that absolutely nobody is talking about but could offer up insane returns. We're working off a $400 monthly budget, and as always, I'm putting my own money into every single one of these so I can join you for the ride. Let's kick things off looking at the Armory and the Elemental Craft stickers. I think this is a huge opportunity right now, as the hype that had pushed prices up for all Armory collections, including the active ones, has now dissipated. With the recent crash, many players liquidated to get in on covert skins or simply get out of the CS space entirely, and prices have dropped. This data shows which stickers have the most demand based on application rates from the 10th of November. As a comparison, here are the application rates for the character craft stickers, so you can see that rates are roughly double those of the character crafts and are clearly very popular. Of course, we can't be sure exactly when these stickers will be removed, but if we take a look at the high heat for example, you can see it's close to its all-time low over the last 12 months. I'm going to pick up a combination of boom trail glitters, rainbow root hollows, and high heat and bolt charge papers worth a total of $99.37. Before we continue, this video's sponsor, SkinSwap, is giving you a skin worth up to $50 entirely for free whenever you do your first trade and use my referral code. If you want to refresh your loadout, you can trade your skins for brand new ones in just a couple of seconds. Plus, their new Chinese markets feature lets you purchase cheap skins from Chinese sites directly without the need for a Chinese ID or bank account. They accept deposits via crypto, MasterCard, and Visa. If you need to cash out, SkinSwap makes that simple too, with instant sell options to PayPal or crypto. On top of that, they run free daily, weekly, and monthly giveaways, with the chance to earn extra tickets simply by trading. Use my link or referral code for a 3% lifetime sales bonus and a free skin worth up to $50. Big thanks to SkinSwap for supporting the channel. Next, we need to take a look at trade-up fillers. In previous editions of this series, I'd suggested investing into collections like Train 2013, given their utility for trade-ups. However, with the recent changes to the formula, these skins, alongside any other common filler such as the P2000 Amber Fade, are completely obsolete. This was quite a costly loss for me, as I'd collected over 1,000 of them. So let it be a good reminder for everyone that this game is at Valve's whim, and please do not put in any money you cannot afford to lose. However, people will still obviously be looking for skins to put into their trade-ups to maximize potential profit, and since fillers can no longer increase odds, one of the best ways to make profit now is through float combinations. Because float capped skins get adjusted heavily, if you can find skins with the full 0 to 1 float range at low floats for cheap prices, I think there is a lot of potential to easily resell them later on. For example, I recently resold this Dreamglade for $15, despite the cheapest listings on CS Float starting at under $5. You can even set up buy orders to do this automatically. If you can also find skins that have a high minimum float, for example the Mach 10 Sakaku, which only starts at 0.21, you might also find that you can either resell them or use them in profitable trade-up combinations thanks to the new float cap scaling. This can essentially result in even a 0.25 float field-tested skin outputting factory new. And as the float approaches 0.21, the adjusted output gets closer to 0. This does certainly require a bit more hands-on effort compared to my usual suggestions, but it could be quite lucrative in terms of faster flips. Your best bet to find these would probably be on Steam or trading bot sites linked in the description, where floats are not taken into account in pricing. You can also use the CS Float Market Checker extension to sort items by float on Steam directly, and then resell them on CS Float to make a profit. I'm not allocating a specific dollar amount to this section, but it could certainly be an interesting play. In number 3, we have Operation skins. However, I am going to deviate from prior videos where I often recommended getting in at cheaper price points with consumer and industrial grade skins, and now suggest buying in between the mil-spec and classified tiers directly. Since the trade-up odds have been changed, you can no longer stack the probabilities in your favor by, for example, putting in one collection skin alongside 9 fillers and still having 25% odds. Therefore, I believe fewer people will be trading up from these lower rarities as they've become substantially less profitable and will go straight for higher tier skins. Depending on your budget and the collection you're choosing, this will mean the entry price is higher, but I think we'll see solid returns on these. Personally, I've decided to go for a factory new Famous Sundown from the St. Mark collection, as I've been looking to build up a solid play skin investment loadout, and we obviously have a budget constraint. The cheapest one I was able to find was via SkinSwap's new Chinese markets feature for just $120. so check it out via the link in the description. However, as I've mentioned in the past, I also think the Norse, Chop Shop, Control, and Rising Sun collections are all extremely solid as they have fairly high liquidity relative to some of the other collections and contain popular high-end skins. Of course, you could argue that since the trade-up odds have been altered, more low-tier skins will be used in trade-ups to boost output chances, and I can get behind this theory as well, but I think it will take longer for that to play out than returns on some of the higher rarities. For number 2 on the list, we're going to talk about weapon cases. I actually think that with the new update, despite gold prices dropping off, the average ROI should increase as the skins themselves become more valuable. Plus, as prices of skins rise in specific collections that are being heavily traded up, a higher ROI should encourage more people to open cases. Therefore, I would recommend looking at rare drop cases that have the most desirable golds, for example the Chroma, Gamma and Spectrum cases. I always think the OG glove cases are a solid bet as well, so the glove and Hydra cases. However, the prices for these have rebounded pretty hard after the crash, whereas the Spectrums, for example, are still down 20% in the last month. I'm going to have a video coming soon where I talk about the future of cases and my thoughts on how Valve will treat them in general, but for the moment I think these are great pickups. I'm going to add 10 cases of each, Chroma, Gamma and Spectrum, to the portfolio. I tend to prioritize the first edition of each case as supply is lower, but if you find any going for a great discount, it's not a big deal. While we're on the topic of cases, I wanted to quickly alert you all to a major issue at the moment regarding case opening data online. CSGO Case Tracker is a great website that many of us use to analyze case unboxing rates. However, it is currently displaying 74 million cases unboxed this month. For context, both August and September numbers were about 32 million, so unless we've jumped to unprecedented unboxings, which I highly doubt is the case, no pun intended, there's an error in the calculation. And indeed, if we look at the methodology applied by the site to make these calculations, where it essentially looks at the number of new battle-scarred COVID skins identified on the CSFloat database to estimate how many new cases have been unboxed, we can immediately recognize that the sudden immense influx in trade-ups to COVIDs is the root of this issue. So for the moment, I'd be steering clear of this data, and perhaps be looking at historical figures for any cases you're interested in. I wanted to mention that since many people have been glued to the price Empire market cap as of late, it has also come under scrutiny as it does not account for banned skins or skins consumed in trade-ups. So for example, if you use 5 coverts, each worth $100, and then get a knife worth $1,700, Price Empire's market cap would rise by the full $1,700 instead of just $1,200 to account for the difference. And if you hit just a $100 knife, the market cap would not drop by $400, but instead rise by $100 overall. It's not the end of the world, but essentially means that the market cap is in reality lower than whatever it says, and is likely getting heavily inflated by the influx of high-value trade-ups in recent weeks. Just keep that in mind while they work to improve their formula. Now, before I move on to my final recommendation, which I think could really see great returns in the coming weeks and months, I wanted to share a bit of a flyer pick that absolutely nobody is talking about, and that is the Anubis Collection Package. Of course, your first instinct will be it's sold via the in-game store, we don't know if it'll be removed, this is an awful suggestion. And I can definitely accept that criticism. To be honest, in the past I've personally discouraged people from making investments that rely on unprecedented Valve decision making. However, with map remakes like Cobblestone and Cache almost certainly arriving in the coming months or year, and Anubis being out of the map pool for almost 6 months now, it might be on the cards to get removed. Unboxing rates for the package have definitely fallen, and if you buy on third-party sites, you can pick them up for even cheaper than the in-game store. I personally think it's got a ton of amazing skins, and while this is absolutely a risky play, I wouldn't be surprised if it got removed from the store before the Fever case gets removed from the armory. If you've got some spare money to go out on a bit of a limb, this could definitely be an interesting pick. Finally, to wrap up this month's portfolio, I'm going to be spending our remaining balance on skins from some of the most desirable gold collections, such as the Chroma, Gamma and Glove cases. Trade-ups to golds in the Chroma and Gamma collections are still sitting at around 120 to 140% profitability as of the 15th of November, which means there's still huge room for covets to grow, or admittedly, knives to fall. However, given the popularity of Dopplers and the fact prices seem to be somewhat stabilizing at roughly 60% of pre-update prices, I think there's still a lot of room for these skins to rise in value as more trade-ups are completed. While the coverts and then classifieds saw huge price spikes, it's taking longer for that to trickle down to the purples and blues. For glove cases, I'd be prioritizing low float factory new options, But for float-capped collections like Chroma, it doesn't matter so much, as even I've been using battle-scarred, well-worn or field-tested skins in my trade-ups to maximise returns. This means, for example, in the glove case, I would be avoiding the Novagilla, as its 0.3 float cap means it won't be used much for trade-ups, whereas the M4A1 Flashback or Julie's Royal Consorts have the full 0 to 1 float range, so factory new items will be used more often. I've decided to pick up 3 factory new Royal Consorts at $10 each from the glove case, and then 3 UMP Primal Sabers in Well Worn from the Chroma 3 collection, as it was simply the cheapest classified skin I could find on CS Float from any of the Chroma collections. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on how I've distributed this month's portfolio. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and take care of yourselves.